everybody, it's Sunday. It's that day of the week again. I'm going to do a what sold on eBay video, and we're just going to hop right over to the screen and we'll go from there. For today's items, I just picked from the last few days. It's been a really busy week. I didn't want to spend the extra time going through all the last week's listing and trying to pick out some different items. So there's just a little bit of mix in here. I've only included, obviously some from the last few days. I've sold many to the same person. One person bought almost $400 worth of cards on his own, 27 cards. I've just included a few. It's somebody who always buys the same type of cards. But other than that, it's just literally items that were sold in the last few days. Some of these literally just sold this morning or just through last night. The first item here, this is actually like a salesman sample, maybe even a paperweight. I paid $2 for this. You can see it's not even in that great condition. It's kind of rusted and all. I've seen other ones of these trying to be sold for $20 in real nice condition. I think the condition that this one's in makes it look older. Maybe not. Maybe this is an original versus the other ones. I'm not really sure, but I figured for $2, anything with a name on it such as this in a small size would have sold. But this sold fairly well. It was only up for like 60 days. I got $25 out of it with shipping. I just showed this one here in one of the lots. I mean, just literally a day or so ago. I just put it up. I sold like 7 or 8 from the same lot, all from the California cards. This one here I sold for $16.50. There's nothing to compare it to, so I used pretty much averages of the cards that sold from the same area and of the same type. So that was a fair, decent price at $16.50. Here's an interesting one. This one was up for a little while. This person actually, it's a soldier's card. He was at, let's see, where was this? Fort Dix. The soldier was there. And he's actually sit here and on the back, numbered and written down what everything is on the front. So if someone's looking for IDing the material, this is the key card here. It actually sold for $25, and I'm sure that's the reason. You just don't see stuff like this all that much with literally your whole pack all laid out with everything, including your knife and, bayonet and all the whole works. Very interesting card. $25 is what I sold it for. It was up for, I think, 3.5 months. So, I've got like 15, 20 cents in the listing it maybe. This is another one of the dollar cards. Next item here. I sold 3 or 4 4th of July cards all on the same day, and they all went to different people, which was really weird, but, it just goes to show that it's getting close to the holidays. So these kind of items are selling more. We put up all of our 4th of July cards that we had easy access to without really digging, and we've already sold, I think, like 30 or 40% of them just off the bat. And you can see some of the prices. This one I think we took $15.50 for. $17.50. This one went for $17.50. Let me see here. Let's look at the next one. Interesting card, very nice. Next one up. This just sold to overnight. This is like a 90s jacket. Again, I do like the vintage stuff. The 90s is always cool. It might even be a little newer than that, but it's styled after the same ones that were around in the 90s. And I think, yeah, this one actually sold at full price, $59.99. It was up for 6 months. But it sold. It was up for like 6 months. We got like 28 cents worth in listing fees for this, and then obviously the final value fee. But other than that, this was $2.99 at a thrift store. Out of season. I buy the winter coats a lot throughout the year. I don't care if it's winter, summer, fall. Usually in the summer I get them much cheaper, and that's when I usually try and rake up and I go to some of these smaller towns who don't pull off the winter items to sell later on. A lot of the smaller thrift stores and shops don't have room to put stuff in backstock, so they just sell everything through. They'll just mark them down horrendously when it hits summer and they don't think jackets are going to sell. And that's the time to rake up and buy, 20, 30 jackets if that's what you can get. But again, this was a decent item. Records, I sold a whole bunch this week. This one just sold last night. Dornberger, I've sold several by him. This is a scroll label. These usually sell for better than the rest. Circa 1915 to, say, 1920-ish, 22, somewhere in that range. I don't remember the condition on it, but E-, so it's still a decent record. V+, E-, E+, that's the range I sell in. Let's see here. Let's move on to the next one. This one was a Goebel, and I'm sure somebody missed it. If you're not familiar with Goebel, um, right there you see the little V with the hummingbird or with the bumblebee. That's like the earliest, I believe, marking. This is a very nice piece. I think I took 27.50 on it. German. It's well marked. I paid $1 for this. I always buy these little ceramic animals and cats and dogs and even the little sheep and all the little animals that they have that are porcelain. There's some that are little tiny miniature versions that even broken or chipped little feet and stuff, they'll sell too. A lot of these little ones sell. I don't usually put them in ceramic category. I'll usually list them in the animal section under collectibles. This one I do believe I listed in the animal category because the Goebel mark is on there. It's a real nice mark. Look up Goebel if you're not familiar with it. A lot of people miss it, and sometimes you'll just see that little B with a V or just a B. If you don't know the mark, you're going to be passing up some good items. It doesn't have to say Germany. Sometimes they don't have room for it, but the Goebel mark is always on there. Let's see here. And again, I showed you these just the other day. I think I sold this one here. Yeah, $75 for this one. This was that $5 hi-fi record needle and cartridge lot I got. Out of that lot, I've sold 24 items out of it. I've got $1,390 return right this minute, and I still have 12 more items to sell out of that lot. So my $1,200 estimate was a little off. We're hitting more towards the $1,600 profit margin for that lot there. Again, I only paid $5 for it. I had no idea what it was, honestly, until I got home and actually dug through them. I had to look all these up, or most of them, to even know for sure condition and quality and the whole works. But most of the higher dollar items have sold already. And again, I got $1,395, or $1,390 actually, back so far. Let's see here. Another one of them, I believe I took 100 or 75 on this one. I don't know what these were worth, so we just threw some high prices out there, just like I said. But again, altogether, $1,390. Another one, 75. This one I took 100 on. I had two offers. One was way less than that, so who knows what it was really worth. But I got 100 out of it. I can't quibble at all. I'm not going to give you too much detail on these. I really don't know much other than what you see. It was just a real good purchase for me. Let's see here. The next item, I believe, is another one of those, 75. I got out of it. Again, I have no idea what these are worth. I looked up comps on several other sites. Somebody referred me to some sales sites that are specifically for this type of material. So I took in the ballpark range where I felt it was in the high end of the mid-size or mid-section. So $75, I was pretty happy. There's no way for me to tell what the condition is, if these work or anything. So I'd rather sell them a little cheaper than I thought, just to make sure that these people are happy. I don't want to have a returns on $1,000 worth of items. Let's see here. Another one, same thing, $75. This one here I took 55. I sold a whole bunch of comics this past week, like $700 worth of them. These are comics that I pay like a couple bucks a piece. I don't think I spent more than $2 on any of the comics I have. You're taking potluck, in my opinion, on some of the comics because you never know condition and issue, and a lot of these, there's hundreds of them up for sale. But I got lucky. I did fairly well. I usually pick the earlier issues. 12, 10-cent covers are usually mostly what I buy. There's some newer ones like Harlequin's first appearance, and that's like a 90s comic book. Or like some of the earlier Guardians of the Galaxy, or I always buy the first few issues of The Walking Dead. I've sold a few of those in the $1,000 range, some of the slabbed ones. But for the most part, I don't mess with them. Like maybe the first appearance of Venom or something, or some issue like that, or Punisher's first appearance. It's always worth buying. That's a couple $100 comic book. You just have to know kind of what you're looking for. I'm fairly good on most comics. Some of the newer ones, as I said, I only know very few specific issues that are worth a ton of money compared to just the commons. I missed some comic books, but when you run into these comic book lots, there may be 5,000 comics there. I just don't want to spend the time to look through them. I'll do my quick usual look, and that's about it. I don't sit there and want to look up a couple thousand comic books on the phone. I'd be there all day. Sometimes it may be worth it if they're vintage comic books. It's a different story. Golden Age, Silver Age, those kind of things. But again, they sell very well. I think I have some more that just sold. This person bought a few different lots, and then 2 or 3 other people did. And I think a lot of the Sergeant Fury that I had up did sell. I have issue 1 I haven't put up yet, but I probably will soon. I've had an offer on it already before I even put it up. Asked if, one of these people who bought asked if I had more. So I have some business already, some people interested before it goes up. I wouldn't sell it offline, of course. Sell it through eBay. Don't get yourself in trouble. The number one way to get yourself banned from eBay would be to have a sale outside of eBay that you met on eBay, like let's sell this item off eBay, I'll pay you, or you could even do it accidentally and not even know you're doing it. You could get an email from somebody locally who wants to see the item, and then he offers you cash on the spot. And, that's how they're going to catch you doing it. They've got automated system to go through emails between anybody on eBay to be able to tell if you're doing that kind of activity. So you don't have to necessarily pass certain kinds of information back and forth, but I would never, ever do it. That's your number one reason to get kicked off eBay quick. Yeah, just do every deal on eBay. Don't mess around with any off eBay things. This person here buys from me constantly. I save and put bunches of Raphael Tuck items up all at the same time. He bought almost 400, it was $397 worth of cards. He bought 27 cards, all Raphael Tuck. And he buys pretty much every one I have up. Maybe a couple dupes he hasn't, but I've got 2 or 3 people who only buy Raphael Tuck. This one wasn't even in good condition. It's early one, it's cute, it opens up. Still, I had $40 for this one. And again, he bought $397 worth in one day, one person, one sale. Here's another one he bought. This one I took, I think, 45 on. This one was a nice one. This one doesn't come up that often. It's dated. It's got a nice maker's mark on the front. The artist's name is signed on there too. This is a pretty decent one. There's the Raphael Tuck logo again. But again, multiple purchase to the same person. I had 6 or 7 big multiple purchases this week. The cheapest multiple purchase was $107, so that gives you some idea. We've got like 1,700 in just a few purchases. But here's another roller skating label. This one just sold last night. I took $34.50 for it. Again, these I just put up and I just leave them. They'll sit there until they sell or somebody makes me an offer that I'll take. I haven't had to take anything less than 15 on any of these labels. So, 15 to $34.50 is what I've gotten for any of them. I've sold more than 200 of these in the last 6 months alone. So these are huge money makers. I'm right in the middle of pulling some more out, and I'll be listing some in the next 3 or so weeks because I am getting down on them. I try to keep 400 or so of these up minimum at any given time. It kind of spreads out the purchases so people don't, look away from me because I've just got so many and I flood the market. I'm literally the number one of these kind of things online on eBay or any other site. We probably have 90% of all roller skating labels are ours on eBay right now. So they're big movers for us. I say that about a lot of items because there are a lot of items that we sell. Over 200 of these at least $15 a piece is a pretty big chunk of change just for roller skating labels, and I sell labels of every type. We sell liquor labels almost, every other day I sell probably a liquor label, like a wine bottle label or something pre-1960. We'll sell luggage labels. We'll sell poster stamps. I mean, literally every day or two, one of these items sells in every single of these categories. Again, paper I sell minimum now in these days right around $12,000 a month or more just in paper. Nothing more than just in paper. That's not counting any of the other items I sell. That's not counting my records or anything else. $12,000 is about average now, even through the summer, even through what's called slow period for most people. Again, these items are scarce. Some of these items, I've had the only one up for months on end, or probably the only one you even see on some of these sites, even WorthPoint and such forth, on some of these labels and some of these paper items. It doesn't matter when you put them up. They're just that scarce of an item. Then again, they might not even actually be that scarce, but most people don't even think to put these things up. A lot of these roller skating labels were stuck down to people's skating cases and luggage and stuff, so they're not usable anymore. You can't get them anymore, so these kind of items always sell. Just like whiskey bottle labels and stuff from the 60s and before, they're getting scarce items. They're harder and harder to find. Postcards, same way. Some of the postcards are maybe one-of-a-kinds. like the real picture postcards, RPPC postcards. That may be a single person's photo that they took with a kit that they bought, and that may be the only one of those images. That's why they're worth hundreds of dollars in some cases. And that's, again, why these items do not go down in price for the most part during summer. I do not lose sales for the summer. I do not sell what everybody else does as a majority of my items. I sell everything that you sell. I sell clothing, I sell books, video games. I don't show most of that on here because everybody shows it. Everybody does. I'm trying to show you the items that you are missing. Everybody knows that, vintage video games are worth money. Everybody knows that clothing sells. Everybody buys clothing. I buy it, you buy it, everybody does. So to show you all that stuff, it's kind of a waste. I do show you the 90s, like the hip-hop style clothing, because I do like that era. I do like the grunge, so sometimes you might see some of the grunge items up here, but I like the clothing items that most people don't pay attention to, so I might shove some of those in here, or mod 60s clothing, or, Victorian items, things like that. That's what I'll show you. Again, I'm not going to waste my time showing what everybody else is showing, and, I've even got a ton of feedback on my videos now. You can look through them yourself, where people are happier to see this type of item than the usual what everybody else is showing. Vintage to me is not something from the 90s, and unless it's like hip hop or something, I do show that. But if it's vintage paper or anything, we're talking vintage. We're talking pre-1980 at any given day or earlier. I like vintage stuff regardless. I'll buy it all as old as I can get it. 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. The Revolutionary War is a great item to purchase no matter what. But that's just part of what we do, of course. $12,000 though is my average now a month. It's went up. We were doing 10, then we were doing 11,000 a month. Now we're doing 12,000 a month. And I will bet you $1 million that will increase through summer, because now, tomorrow I've got 3 people working 8-hour shifts now starting. So, we're moving into our full-time hours of labor, and I'm running a ton of labor, and we're just going to blow it out. I'm just going to list hundreds and hundreds of items every day of the week. I could conceivably get, another 6,000 items up in a month. We'll have to play it by ear, and I'll go from there. But that's our goal, and that's what we're working towards, selling this kind of stuff. Again, these do not slow down in the summer. Next item here. This was a $2 purchase. I got a dozen of these. They're really nothing. They're newer cards. I think they were 70s or something, maybe even. These are actually 80s cards. I did sell them for $27.50. They were up for, I think, 6 weeks. So I was really surprised. They're advertising. I'm sure it's somebody from Oregon, or maybe even this place is still there. I believe it actually is still there, so maybe it's somebody who works there even, or a family member who owns the place. A lot of items I sell like this, even postcards or trade cards or paper items, are bought by people who have the same last name, or they're living in the house that's in the postcard, or, they work at the place that's in the postcard, or some family connection, or it's, a specific item that they collect. People buy postcards for things that they collect on, like pipes or cars or whatever the case may be. They may not even be postcard collectors who are buying this. Crafters buy it. There's so many different groups of people that buy the stuff that I sell, regardless of whether they seem to be odd items to you or to anybody else. To the people who buy them, they're not items at all. To me, these are not odd items. These are not strange items. These are not items that will be hard to sell. These are items that do sell religiously, daily, all the time, all year round for us. It's just a given. You can believe what you want. You can doubt what I'm saying. I'm showing you items that sold. These are all my sold items. These are not made-up items. You can look in comps. All my items aren't going to show up in the sold items. I don't know why that is. There's some setting or something. I don't mess with all that. I don't care if they show up or don't show up in the closed items. I'm not going to waste my time on that. But they're there. This is what's sold. For the most part, you should be able to see everything I've sold or showed you to verify that these are what they sold for. This is common prices for these items. Like this right here. This is like a quack medicine. And it's literally pine needle cigars. It's pine needles that have been soaked in something. And I sold this little tiny piece of paper it went for $14.50, and they paid shipping on top of it. $3.50 shipping is what we charge for first class now. That compensates me for the expenses on the eBay fees for my shipping. So I'm not really making anything. I'm just breaking even. It covers the supplies and the whole works. So it's just a wash on my shipping. I never want to try and make money off shipping ever. It happens once in a blue moon by accident, and usually I'll refund that difference. If it's over $1 or so, it's just not worth my hassle otherwise. And again, I'm not trying to rip anybody off on shipping, but that's just what I charge. It includes the fees and the packing. But paper items, again, regardless of what you think or what you've been selling, these are the items that I sell, and I sell them year-round. That's why I don't worry anymore about the summer. I don't have the huge gain in increases in this type of material, though, for the fourth quarter. So I sell other items. We do wholesale, and as I've talked about in videos looking ahead to the future, in other videos that I did, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, we already bought Christmas items to compensate for the fact that we don't have the huge increase in paper items during the winter. We do have a huge increase in paper items that are Christmas related in the winter, and New Year's and Thanksgiving and Halloween, but that's every year that happens. So we compensate, so we still have a massive increase in sales in third and fourth quarter, especially fourth quarter, because as I said, we sell wholesale items as well too. I'll do some retail arbitrage. And that's literally what we'll do the most of. I don't like to drop ship at all. I don't like the aspect that something could be out before you get a chance to purchase it. And then, so if I sell $100,000 on drop ship in a month, and I'm only making 5% of that, and then I still have to deal with the headaches and the hassles and worrying about, other issues with, taxes or copying someone's photo or liability if I sell an item that's got an issue with it, or that's been recalled by accident, or that somebody gets hurt. If you're doing drop shipping, you're liable for damages. And most people don't have a business owner's policy. I do. As I said, I've discussed that separately. If you haven't seen that, please go back and watch many of my videos. I've discussed a lot of these other issues. A business owner's policy, BOP. Most of the sellers on YouTube don't have one. Most of the people weren't even sure what they were. I've went on most of the other people who have live feeds, and I've asked them that question. I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but I wanted to see how many were as serious in the business as me, who know the insides and outs of actually a business versus just doing online sales. I do this as a full-fledged 100% business. I treat it just as I did when I was regional, running national companies, and running it that way. I've handled $3 million stores. I've handled $12 million regions. I handle this business here the same way. My goal at some point is to get to $1 million a year in sales on eBay. We are well on our way to getting that done. It's going to take a few more years for sure, but I feel in one of these days, in the very, very near future, we will hit that $1 million in sales. Again, that's not what I'm going to make. But that's our sales goal. We're too far out there. Our fingers are spread all over the place. We're making sales on many sites. In any given day of the week, I could have sold on 6 different platforms, and 6 different, sources of selling right off the bat. Any given day of the week, that could happen. Average 3 or 4 different sites we sell from. It may be an Amazon sale, an eBay sale, a Poshmark sale, and an Etsy sale on the same day. Or even some of the other sites that we do too. So that's just what you gotta do to expand your business. And along with expanding your business, if you're not selling internationally, you're losing out. You can even increase your sales up to 30% possibly, depending on what you're selling, if you go and sell globally. And I'll do a video on that too, because there's lots of ins and outs, and I'll give you the straight dope from 5 years of just international selling. I am top rated plus in the entire global market, in every region, at the global region, in Germany and England, wherever it's option to sell through eBay, through the American site. I am a top rated seller. That's how much we sell overseas. So it's a huge, big moneymaker. That's why we don't worry. Again, this is another reason why I do not worry for summer, for us drops in sales in summer. Because in overseas countries, they don't have a summer like us. The regions are different. They have winter over there. People are still in. If you sell items, if half your items are items that will sell overseas, you don't have to worry about much during the summer here. It's just not an issue for us. And again, people doubt me. People don't believe it. I've had some, snide remarks and some email comments and such forth about, it's not true. It is true. I don't care what you say. These are from people who don't know or haven't sold these areas. Some of the same people who doubt what I'm selling. These are legitimate items that sell. You like this item here, type in, print ad on eBay and see what they sell for. You don't have to take my word for it. You're going to see a bunch with numbers like the L category here. Those are mine. You're going to see a ton of what we sell. We might be the #1 seller in print ads. I don't really know. I haven't looked it up. It's not a concern about what ranking I am. It's just a concern that I'm selling these items and I'm increasing my profits. I don't really worry about what other people do or even what other people charge for some of these items. I know what I get for them now. When I price items these days, I price them by what I've sold them for or what I've gotten comparable items for. I don't even half the time, more than half the time, probably 75% of the time in the vintage Victorian or pre-1940 paper items, other than postcards, I don't have to look it up anymore. It's just a given. You can usually throw a pretty flat price out there. Like if it's travel brochures from the 30s or 40s, I've seen most of them. There's only a set given number of travel brochures that are available for any specific area. I've seen most of them. If I haven't seen it, then I might need to look it up. But most of those I've seen. A lot of postcards I've seen, at least the mass-produced ones, and you can usually tell. You can usually blow out and not even worry about looking at certain types of cards as well, too. But that's, again, goes back to research. That's how I can sell this type of item for $14.50. It's a 2-inch across by 1.5 inches to 2 inches tall piece of paper cut out of a newspaper. And this was a junk newspaper that came from a garage sale. I bought a huge stack of them. I probably got 70 or 80 ads that I cut out of this. And it's just junk paper from the 1890s through, say, 1905. And this stuff I find all the time. I just picked up another lot of it for 20 some odd bucks. I'm talking a big box. It's almost a banana box full of vintage newspapers, all different types. They're all pre-1945. I mean, I can't go wrong with that type of material. Let's see here. Let's go on to the next item. Another luggage label. This is in poor condition. Actually, this is a small. This one's almost a poster stamp size, 1.5 inches across. This one did sell for $14.50. Some of these items are kind of hard to get a good picture of. It's a foil metallic. It looks like a bright shiny silver, so it was kind of hard, but it still sold fairly well. This one wasn't up too long. I can tell by looking at the number. And again, that's another reason why I put my item or my bin picking number in my listing title. I know you can put up a separate category so I could look for that without using up space in my listing. But for my employees, for me, for anybody, it's an instant quick. I don't even have to look at the listing. I can tell where it's at instantly. I can go right to that bin and pick this out anytime I want just by looking at the title. And that's a lot easier than having to go in and look at special labeling for item specifics. Let's see here. I bought a bunch of these. This is one of those box lot junk deals from Attic. I think I got like $5 in a huge box of these. I sold 3 or 4 lots for $25, $20, $15. So we made a ton of money. This one I think I took $25 for Wish shipping. It was sent media mail. It's just bound material. It's printed material. No advertising included. This is actually made to be bound, so it was legit. But it was a reasonable profit. Let's see here. This is from the Hi-Fi lot again. These I made $65 on. They're just little tabs. Somebody emailed me, a person who actually bought some, and said these can go up to $25 a piece. I don't know if that's correct, but they weren't directly sold or bought right off the bat. They sat there for a couple of days. The only comps that I could see were, $45 for just a few less. I think there was 11 in the lot, and I have 17 of these. So comparable-wise, it's right up there with what I've seen them selling for. And again, I don't always take the judgment of what somebody else says they can go for, So I was happy with the money I got out of these. $65 for something. I spent $5 on a huge lot of stuff. Again, I made $1,390 return already. That's before the fees are taken out. So I'm probably going to make like $1,250 off of it. Another roller skating label. This one I took 20 on. Again, I usually take 15 to 20, or they'll sell straight out overnight at full price. It just kind of depends. Civil War. This is a GAR. This is solid metal. It went for less than I thought, but you live and you learn. I still made, I doubled my money on it. I bought a bunch of these. It was from, I think, an estate sale or something. But I buy these kind of things all the time. Vintage medals. The medals like this, they have to be, say, pre-1910 for me to even be interested or looking at them. There's some newer ones that are worth some more money, like some of the Masonic ones, but those could be gold. So I always look at all the Masonic like medals, especially if they're in like a folded leather black wallet or a blue wallet. A lot of times those are like mastery badges or something that are made out of gold. I've picked up many of those walleted Masonic badges and turned them in and gotten hundreds of dollars just because they were solid gold. And people don't take them out to look at them. They leave them mounted into those wallets, and usually it's the gold marking is on the top where the pin connects. So if you don't remove them from the wallet, you could be missing out on a gold piece right there. Gold I find quite often. I just found some in a lot the other day. That's the third time I found something that was marked 10 or 14 karat gold in the last week or two. I've got a friend, and he buys just junk, weird, oddball stuff. He bought a pair of, well, I don't know if you can call it a pair, but someone's false teeth. And there was a tiny bit of gold shown on one little spot in these false teeth. They're real early false teeth, maybe 1920s or 30s. He spent $50 on them. It was at a flea market, an antique flea market on top of it. This guy knows his stuff. He's a jeweler. He's got the test kits, all the equipment, everything. He's even got a digital diamond analyzer and digital gold tester, the whole works. And he broke these things up, and there was 1.5 ounces of solid, 18 karat gold in these things, in this fake teeth. So, I mean, that just goes to show that you never know these areas. I mean, this is something that I would have not thought anything of. $50 for some false teeth. Maybe if for an oddity, I might have figured I might get 75. I probably would have never busted these things open thinking I'm wasting my money. But he knew what was filled in these by the gold he saw from the outside. And that's just one of those oddball things. Let's move on to the next item. Again, these are just items that were sold in the last couple days. I didn't go back very far at all. I just tried to do a quicker video here. Again, because we've got a ton of stuff coming in. I've been purchasing left and right. I think every day this week I've done a haul or a couple hauls every single day. One day I did 3 in a row. So I got home after doing one haul, then I went to a thrift store, a haul there, and I got home. One of my pickers called, and I said, well, let me run out. On these pickers, for me, they have other people they call. They don't just call me, but they call me first. If I can't make it to a location in time, the next person may be out there by then. So I have to go immediately on most of these calls I get. Sometimes it's can be really aggravating, or it can be a real massively long day. I've done 14, 15 hours on occasion. On haul days, just because I wanted to get there and be the first one. The first rule you have to follow. If you're not the first one there, some cases it's not even worth going through. If there's a bunch of records and I hit it first, don't waste your time going through it. I'm telling you now, because I'll hit every single dollar, good dollar record out of there. Unless you just want to mess with $5 records. I'm not going to mess with those. Sometimes even $10 records if it's not a quick mover. Most of the common stuff I know, most of the Elvis, the Beatles, all that kind of stuff, there's not a ton of those available. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take years to learn every single Elvis record that sells. You may run into some oddball, but you can have a real good idea on pricing if you've followed and done your research. It just depends on any records like that. Label-wise, you can kind of pin down what to buy by sometimes just what the label is. It doesn't even matter the artist sometimes, just the label. Like some labels, every artist on that record is worth a ton of money. So, that's just it. But back to what we sold. I've had a ton of these before. It's just a little cutout, like a decoration for Halloween. There's tons of different name brands on these, but this is circa 1920s. I don't remember where I got it, but I had a bunch of all this kind of stuff I sell all year round. Summer, winter, fall, whatever. This stuff always sells for us. These early 20s Halloween. I've sold witches, pumpkins, jack-o'-lantern men, you name it. And that's part of why I do some of the Halloween artwork we do, because it does sell so well. When I wanted to do artwork, I picked artwork that I knew that the category itself sells. Halloween sells. So I do Halloween postcards. Everything I do at a marketing, I look at it from a marketing standpoint and a research standpoint. Where would my time best be suited to do? So if I'm doing something artwork, I'm going to do something artwork that I know always sells. I always sell my Halloween cards, my Halloween cutouts, my Halloween paper items, my Halloween books, my Halloween sheet music, Halloween toys, Halloween plastic, Halloween buttons, whatever it is, if it's Halloween it sells. So that's why I do Halloween stuff. Let's move on here. This was up for a little while. I have, I think, maybe 40 cents worth of listing fees in this, maybe 45 cents. This was an earlier one, as I said, so it's an early number, P46. P46 is my bin number. It's for a fair. Had it not been a state fair, I might not have worried about it, but it's a very specific event. I left it up for a little while. I got 30 bucks out of it. I've got 4 of these. I only put one up. As soon as this one was down, I listed another one. That's some of what you got to do, and we track these, so I know, ones that I have multiple items of. It's a no-brainer. You don't want to list 4 of the same item up at the same time. List them up until the next one sells. There's something else you got to keep track of. Keep another file on these. Something else to think about and look at. I kind of remember these. I don't know how you are with your merchandise. But usually when something sells, I remember if I've got another one of it. I won't have to look in the book, but we don't look in the book for everything. There's big numbers that don't have items. We have multiples. Like P46, I've got 7 different items that have multiples, or 8 different items that have multiples in there. There's only certain numbers that even carry multiple items cards, so I know right off the bat where to look. So it narrows it down. But move on to the next one. These are some pewter figures. I picked up, I don't know, 5-6 pounds of these, maybe more than that. I was debating on melting them down, but we started selling them for like $7-8 a lot of a few figures. And I've got probably like 400 lots of little tiny figures like this if I wanted to. I'm saving some of it. We're going to do some buttons and stuff, so I'm going to melt down some of them. But again, I got pounds of this. I buy pounds of, vintage stuff like this from role-playing people. So if you don't know where to find stuff like this, or you want to buy it, I could sell this to a scrapper even and make money on it. I could sell it online and scrap pewter or scrap lead and make a good profit just by selling it that way. But this way, I'm selling a couple ounces worth of it for $7.50 at a shot. I've sold probably 30 or 40 of these. I spent 35 bucks on all of that, so I've made a ton of money. I sold some individual figures for like 40 bucks a piece out of this lot. Even there were some wizards with crystal balls in their hands, actual crystal. And that was just a lot of the mini figures. And then I got some larger figures that I spent I bought separately from the same person. They had like a role-playing shop, and I bought out a huge inventory. I bought most of their junk unpainted and pewter figures. I've got a ton of the taller, like 8-9-inch wizards, which we melted, because some of those weighed £1 a piece, and we were getting them for, pennies on the pound. So it was a huge investment. We melted some down and sold it for scrap. We poured them into bars and then sold them that way. But let's move on. Let's see here. I've sold a ton of these too. Most people don't mess with it, don't think much of it. I took 10 bucks on these. Again, these are something I get for like a nickel. These are just cheapos. I had some multicolored ones where the bottom of the case was blue or red or green or yellow and the lids were like blue and turquoise and stuff. Those are earlier than this. Those I got like 30 bucks for 5 again. I usually sell these in quantities of 5. And I'll buy them a lot. I even seen these at Savers before. A lot of people just pass them up and think they're just junk stuff. But even the film canisters, these are probably 70s even. So, it doesn't necessarily matter the age. People still collect these. They still actually use these for many different things. So many people use these. It doesn't have to just be film collectors, crafters, and all kinds of things for movies and, just for setting on shelves, just for looks, for decor. This one sold for $18.50. These are just little tiny ones. You can see the size. They're only 2.5 inches tall. It was a lot of 4 of these. They were on a sheet. I get sheets like this quite often. Then I'll cut them apart and I'll sell them in lots. Like a sheet of this has 10 different sets of 4. There'll be 40 of these on it. And I can break up that sheet that I maybe spent 10 or 12 bucks on at an antique store and sell each set for $18.50. And I've sold 4 or 5 of these already, so, I'm not really worried if the rest sit even for a little while. I've already long since got my money back, and they'll still sell. These will come up to holiday time, and these will sell towards Christmas a little farther, too. Full price. I'll just probably list some more of these up soon. Buying in bulk and buying in mass quantity is what you want to do, or where you can buy one piece and break it down into many auctions worth. Like some of the cheaper reel-to-reel players or some of the electronic items, I'll yank those things apart. Most people won't buy them as a whole unit to do that because shipping will kill you. Unlike a reel-to-reel or a vintage record player, The shipping's just outrageous because these things are heavy. They're operated by tubes, so there's a ton of metal and glass in them. So literally, I'll rip these apart. Like most of the players that aren't worth a lot of money as a whole, or they're damaged, or they're not working, I'll yank them apart and get 10 times the amount of money for the pieces in like a reel-to-reel or a record player, or I'll yank the cartridge out of the record player and the tone arm or the head cover or the platen or the inner workings or the springs or the feet or the knobs. All that sells differently. All that can sell individually. So that's about ripping things apart and not worrying about you don't want to cut a sheet apart, or you don't want to rip a book apart to pull a plate out that might be worth 10 times what the book's worth. That's what you got to do, though. You got to not worry about stuff like that. Historical quality or value. Let's say you don't like cutting up books because you're ruining something historic. Everything could be considered historic. If it doesn't have value to you, it's a business. A business to me is meaning I'm going to make money out of that by doing anything legally allowed to do. And cutting apart a book to yank out a hand-tinted map is not a problem at all. That's fine with me. The books will still sell in many cases without the maps. People will then have to go and track down the maps, and but the book plates usually sell for more than the books do. Plate collectors, they'll buy them and they'll mount them on the wall. So we do that all the time too. And that kind of item, again, it doesn't slow down in the summer. This item here doesn't slow down in the summer, these die cuts. This one here, the Dan Miller, the person who bought this is another example of what type of people buys these vintage cards that sell and spend a ton of money. She spent $32 on 2 cards. Dan Miller, her last name is Dan Miller. Her daughter is getting married, and she bought a bunch of these. She bought all the ones I had. She bought several from other people, and she's making place settings with these embedded in them for the direct family that all have Dan Miller last names on them. So this is just something that people do. Again, $32 for 2 of these cards for me. She bought some from other people. This is one of them. And here's the other one, Dan Miller again. This just goes to show that it doesn't really matter what the item is. It still has a market to it, not just by that. Cordova coffee, for one. People just buy the Cordova coffee. Anything that says Cordova coffee that's pre like 1920, I list. I know it right off the bat. Many of the coffee ones sell quickly. A lot of the tea and coffee cards that are pre-1920 that say China Tea Company or Japan and China Tea Company, or that have Asian-themed images on them, always sell for us. And they always sell overseas to people from China, from Korea, from Japan. And that goes again with shipping globally. Just ship globally smart. For us, I ship directly to Japan. I have never, ever once had a package lost going to Japan. And, I'm a top-rated plus seller in that market too. And we sell hundreds of items over there. Vintage jeans, vintage clothing, books, cards, and we've never lost an item. China is a different story, and so is Korea. Both of those countries, I will only sell even a single $5 card. They're going to have to pay the big money to have it shipped through global shipping program, just because I'm not going to risk losing an item. Again, I'll go over a breakdown on global shipping in the countries that are safe. And this is from my personal experience and honestly what I've come to see. But I'll do a video on that in the near future. But again, these sell just because of the last name on them. That's it, or coffee. They're small cards too. They're like a business card size. Here's another one. I got, I don't remember. I think I took, $32 I took for this one and another set to the same person. These were only up for like 7 days or less. It's a lot of 6 comics. I paid $1 a piece for these, so I got $32 back for this lot out of 32 comics. These are quick lists. I had somebody list these for me. He could have turned the images, but that's fine at this point, I guess. They're just bulk lots. And the person, as I said, bought 2 of these. Here's the other one here. So $64 out of $12 of comics. It's a no-brainer, and they've sold quick. They're newer comics. The conditions, what sold them, they're really nice condition. I'm not a big comic grader. I don't really even put a grading in my comics when I list them. I just let them look at the picture and they can decide for themselves. That way there's no complaints on me saying I graded it any specific way. Let them I just literally put decent condition for pretty much everything these days. That's another one of those little hacks that I can tell you that does work, and it'll save you grief in the long run. If you're not a grader in anything, you don't know the category, other than records. I would always try to grade accurately in records, or under if you're not sure. Always grade under if you are not sure for records. But most other items, I literally just put decent condition. You can look at my listings. Most of the time, I've changed it silver, actually. So any ones that were listed a year or more ago probably say a condition. But any ones we alter or do anything else, we usually just drop that out nowadays and just put in decent condition. That's subjective. Anybody can take that to mean what they want, but we're not stating a specific condition, so there's no way somebody can come back and say it's not VG plus like you said, or very fine like you said, or whatever the case may be. Just watch the conditions you put on these items. But that's literally about what I have here. Again, this is just for a couple days worth of sales, not all items for those couple of days. We're way up again. This month we're still way up. More than 10% from last year, more than 10% from last month. And again, this is what it goes. And we haven't even started. This week, Monday, I'm going to hit my first full-time, running 3 employees full-time. That's just paid employees. I'm not counting my family paid employees. I'm counting outside family workers. There's going to be 7 people working on Monday full-time, 8 hours. And we're just going to see how we go from there. But it's going to pay for itself. I'm telling you, once I list items, 102 items, I'm going to make $102. It's just the way it works. You list a bunch of items, you're going to sell a bunch of items every day you do it. And we'll run most of the days, we're going to pay for the labor that day, and it's going to be an increase in sales above and beyond what we normally sell. So the items we list that day, a bunch of those will sell. And that's how we can keep running that much labor. And then we have residual income from the items that they've already listed that haven't sold the very first day that they were up. Because usually what happens when we're doing a run of a long stretch of many days of multiple people listing for full-time hours, the amount of items that sell per day go up every day. So the first day I start to do this, Monday, I'll list some items. They'll list, say, 200 items, 10 or 20 will sell, we'll make a couple $100. The next day they'll list 200 more items, 10 or 20 of those new items will sell, plus a few of the items we sold the day before. And that'll keep pyramiding up and up and up and up. That's how you keep your sales going through the summer. It helps you for the winter. You're getting ready for the winter, and you're helping yourself for the summer sales all at the same time. I know everybody's doing the mad dash and buying stuff through the summer, all the garage sales and stuff. For me, the garage sales have gotten worse and worse around here. It's harder and harder. People are going to the garage sales the night before and calling ads and showing up when they're not supposed to, conning people, offering them money for, a shot at looking at it. It just on and on. Same with the flea market, or same with the estate sales. So we've sought better sourcing, more reliable sourcing. I still go to garage sales. I still go to flea markets. I still go to the estate sales, but I'm very selective on them. I've got a list of the ones I don't go to because they do have inside deals prior to the sales, and same with, the garage sales that run every year. If you keep track, you can see which garage sales last year were good, and when they advertise again this year, you know which ones to go to. So that's just a little ins and outs on, what we do. But again, these items I'm showing you, and most everything I've showed you today sells year-round. It's a fact. It's a fact. You can take it however you want. You can doubt me. You can, whatever the case may be. But I have people right now leaving feedbacks and comments underneath some of these videos, or they're emailing me, or they're in my Facebook group, which is also under the Auction Professor. And they're literally doing what I'm doing and selling stuff right now, running into summer. $45 items, a $45 record, a $30 postcard, a $20 postcard, paper items, labels, comics, whatever the case may be, the stuff sells. It sells for us all the time. I don't care what time of year it is anymore. I worried my butt off when we first started, the first year or two, when we were just doing clothing and, the odds and ends that you see, the newer stuff, the resale items from, thrift stores that just aren't vintage items. But I realized real quickly after the first year or so that, I needed to change my mode of operation and change what I sell. So right now, for those of you who are losing sales and you're selling the clothing and the common items and the books, you're going to be fighting to increase your sales for this year. You may or may not be able to do it. There's no guarantee on any of that. But if you don't start working towards it for next year, right this minute, next year's going to be the same ordeal you're going to go through again. And then the next year after that, the same ordeal. You need to switch up what you're doing if your sales are dropping that drastically. you know, a 5 or 10% or 10% drop's not a bigger deal. But if you're dropping 50%, you've got to switch up your items. You've got to look into your titles. You've got to look into selling globally. You've got to look into your shipping practices and your feedback. You know, is your feedback not 100%? Is your feedback less than 99.5? I mean, if you're under 99% feedback, that's your issue right there. I've talked about it before. We don't buy from anybody unless they have 100% feedback, or there's no other option but that person. So feedback is always the key factor in what we do to buy something for ourselves. We buy our kids' Christmas presents, clothing, whatever the case may be. My laptops come offline, my shipping supplies, the ones I'm forced to, but everything we try to get offline. So we shop for the ones who have the best feedback. So those are just some options and some things. But that's what I have for today. Well, there you go. That's what we sold. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and tell a friend.